I love you, Heartworm.
Welcome to another episode of AutisHim, Black Files and Autism. We back once again. Man, we got a very special guest on today's episode. Just to kind of give you guys some background, I met this individual through a parent training that was introduced to me by my father-in-law. They actually did some work with the institution that my father-in-law works at. And I went through their parent training and it was amazing. And so, kind of fast forward, this individual and a partner of theirs started a group called LEAP, which is a father's group for Black individuals that have loved ones on the spectrum. And so they asked me if I wanted to be a part of it, and I said yeah. And man, I've been doing it. I think it's been going, Camille, for like the past 3 years now.
Yeah, you're like on year 3. You're on year 3.
3 years, and it's been amazing, man. As a matter of fact, without that group, I wouldn't have met these young brothers on the call today. And so, this individual started their own nonprofit called the Colors of Autism, and I want them to just go into their journey. I want them to talk about how they got started, because I think it's important. I think a lot of us need to take that step when we see things not happening in our communities. We need to create our own if we are able to. I want you guys to give a beautiful round of applause for Camille Proctor. Give it up for Camille, everybody.
Thank you.
So Camille, again, thank you for coming on to the show. We really appreciate it. What I want to get started with is I want you to talk about your journey, how you started your nonprofit, and to some of the things that you're doing now that you started with your nonprofit and things that you're doing on the side. So Camille, take it away.
Sure. So let me see. In the beginning, let's see, it was me and my son. And I had just moved to Georgia, just built a house from the ground up, just doing what I was doing because I was living life. And I realized that my son wasn't really hitting his milestones. And I noticed that he wasn't communicating, meaning everything you said to him was just a smile. But I noticed that he wasn't processing. But I was told that, y'all don't get credit for nothing. Men are slow. That's what I heard. Boys are slow. So they love to talk about y'all. Sometimes it's for the right reasons. Most of the time, maybe not. But anyways, they said he was, boys are slow. He didn't have what I call the classical signs of what people attributed to autism. And I think that's how a lot of Black children, especially Black girls, get missed, because he made eye contact. Now, nobody noticed that the only people he made eye contact with were women. They ain't noticed that. He liked being touched, again, by women. But no one noticed that. But because he liked those things, I had to fight to get him a diagnosis. So I took him to a genetic doctor, because I was just like, what this is something you're not gonna keep telling me is nothing. So the genetic doctor, she came back with his lab work, and she said he had 47 chromosomes instead of 46. People who have 47 chromosomes are in this gray area, not Fragile X, not anything terrible, but she said most that she's come across were autistic. And that's how she put it. And she said there had been no real study on it, but she said that most of the kids that she's encountered who had that one over, which is a gray area again, so I don't want to alarm people, because there's a lot of people with 47 and 46 that he was probably autistic. So she got me in to see a developmental ped the next day, and it was confirmed that he was autistic. So I should have been happy. I got my wish, right? And had no resources. Not a one. Not one. And then I would go to support groups. Nobody looked like me. I'd be the only person there that was of color. And I'd ask questions like, what's going to happen when he's like 12? What do you mean? Well, Black kids are always perceived as being much older than they really are. And I said, and you didn't have to give birth to a little boy and start giving him a lecture out of the womb about what he could and could not do. And I said, and if he can't communicate, if a policeman approaches him and he doesn't understand how to yield, he's going to get killed. And this was right after or right before Michael Brown, or maybe Trayvon Martin. I'm not even sure, but it was somebody Black that got killed. And so I kept seeing these images of Black kids getting killed over minuscule stuff. And my anxiety was so high because I kept worrying about that could be that could be my kid, right? And so, of course, they told me these little support groups weren't for me because, I was a Debbie Downer and I didn't really care because they got the middle finger and I just kept it pushing. But the thing is I kept it pushing, but I didn't have a community. And then I go into my own community and people talk about, oh, that's just the white people. They tell you anything. They just want our children to be retarded. Yeah, the R word. They don't want our kids. And it's like, I remember being in the store, in a grocery store, and my son was having a meltdown, and I didn't know what the issue was. I just knew he was screaming at the top of his lungs in a grocery store. And this old lady said, he needs he need to get his ass beat. And I looked at that old lady. I said, let me tell you something, ma'am. I would never strike an elderly person. But when you talk about beating my son, you've upgraded the old bitch, and I'll beat the old bitch ass.
No.
So two things I learned from that was that I needed to control my temper, right? But then also that our community just had no conceptual understanding of disorders, mental health, et cetera, et cetera. We were just in denial about everything. But each and every one of us had that uncle that was in the soul food movie, the uncle that lived in the back room. All of us had that uncle who lived with grandma. And then when Big Mama died, your auntie got him. And then everybody just hoped auntie did die because none of us want him. So let's be honest about that. We all had that relative. And that was the autistic person. So when I get people telling me it was the environment, it was the shots, it was this, I was like, y'all don't understand the history of autism. And I'm not going to dispute whatever you want to think. But when you look back at the history of autism, and what we grew up with and what we grew up around, there was always that dude that was real smart, right? But he was awkward as hell, right? It was always that dude that was a little something that was fixated on trains, fixated on trains, fixated on wheels. We see y'all 9 years. There was always that dude somewhere around, right? So, and it was always that little girl that was willing to please everybody for whatever reason. Because when I say that and people get quiet, because yes, that's how autistic women mask. Autistic women have masked for years and they've been mainstream in our society forever. So now the numbers are changing and people are thinking that the autism numbers are growing. They ain't growing. They're just better diagnosed. There's more people really coming to terms with, and I'm happy to say that some of it has been attributed to my organization, talking to people about what you scared of. What you scared of? If you do nothing, your child won't have a future. If you do something, you and they can control their own destiny. So, I mean, that's really what the Color of Autism is about. We went from this organization that we were solely focused on early intervention, and we turned into an organization that is not only focused on early intervention, but we're also focused on supporting the Black community, supporting people and building efficacy within the communities. So we like, how can I put this? Like, we want to make sure that these kids, or at least I want to make sure that when I leave this earth, my son has a community that's going to take care of him, right? And the only way you can do that is by creating the community you want to see, right?
Absolutely.
So having brothers like you chop it up, however often y'all do, is cool, because at least I know that these Black men are accepting who their children are, and y'all are trying to figure this out together, as opposed to denying, well, he's just a little autistic, and I have to tell what that's like being a little bit pregnant. Like, well, he's high functioning. All right, good luck with that. You keep thinking that when you get him up to U of M and he has that nervous breakdown because you ain't took care of none of his social emotional needs. Because you've solely depended on the fact that he's smart and likes to play sports. And you didn't wonder what's going on up here. What does he think about? So we try to do that. So I like to say now we've turned into like a neural affirming, we're a neural affirming nonprofit. And basically what we do is we're affirming who these autistic people are, right? Because there's a lot of them. They're parents now. Natasha Tyrone, she teaches our positive parenting class. She's autistic. She has 2 autistic kids. So we don't look at what can't be. We looking at what you can be. And we want to get people encouraged by what your children can be, as opposed to the negative stigma. Now, that's not to say there's not some parents changing a 28-year-old's diaper. That's a fact of autism. That's just a fact. But we want to make sure that we have a strong enough infrastructure of people to support that family. Because oftentimes people say, don't nobody talk about what I go through. Well, first of all, I ain't trying to be rude, but people, it's easier. It's an easier sell to the Black community to engage when you can see possibilities.
Mm.
When it seems like it's hopeless, we don't act on it. We just be like, well, can't do nothing about that. Right?
Right.
Man, that's
And
a word.
so how do you get people on board? You have to show them about what could be, and then you talk to them about the people. Autistic people care more about the people that can't than we ever could. And see, I always have a problem with some of these other organizations because they talk against like self-advocates. I think they're the key to everything, because who better to fight a good fight than a person with lived experience?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? That's just like people coming into our organizations. I'm talking about our Black organizations, talking about we gonna tell you how to be Black. How?
Yeah, that's facts.
Camille, so, to that point, when you first started your organization, like, how difficult was it to get people on board, to get people to believe in what you were trying to do, because you saw a deficit in our community? And then, like, how hard was it to even start it?
It was hard because I don't even think we got to capacity until like year 9.
Oh, wow.
Because it ain't easy. And so I get all these people coming in, I will start my nonprofit. Okay, you good luck with that. But I'm not going to walk you through how to start a nonprofit because A, I don't have the capacity to do that. I ain't got that kind of time. And B, I think people should do their research on what they're trying to do. So I'm going to give you a quick lesson. Number 1, starting a nonprofit is not easy. And for me, for what I was trying to do, I was trying to do something that hadn't been chartered. We had the NAACP and anything else for people of color, but we don't have nothing. There was nothing for people who had disabilities and were people of color, right? And it was hard because my own community shunned. My own community was ashamed of their own kids, And it was hard because, I haven't told anybody he's like that. And then I it was just, like I said, it was in my own community. So, it was difficult trying to find funders, because one of the things in having a nonprofit is, in order for you to get money, you got to have money. So when you submit a grant, there's like, what's your operating budget? I had all zeros.
Excuse me.
So I didn't understand some of the things that I know now. And a lot of people don't know you can't get money with no money, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you another secret. Like people will come to me and they'll be like, Miss Camille, you ain't had no events. You ain't throw no autism friendly this, that, and the third. I ain't going to throw no. Because and it'd be looking at me crazy. And I said, but when you came, I said, okay, let me work with you. So you went to the autism friendly movie, right? Mm-hmm. And when you came home, was your kids still digging in their diaper, sharing shit on the wall? They said, yep. I said, well, what did you learn? What did you learn? Now, let me explain. Because we focus on education, training, and knowledge. Because the more you know, the better we can support the community. So having a picnic, doing the Tootsie Slide, or I don't know, none of the hustles, doing the Tamia hustle or whatever, that's not going to help you. Now, I know they told you somewhere out there you needed to get a break. You do, but you could get a break after you figure out the inner workings of your child so that you can better de-escalate their behavior so you and your significant other can sit back and chill, Netflix and chill for real with a nice bottle of wine, and you ain't got to worry about what's happening upstairs, right? Or you don't have to worry about certain things. For me, it's more important for our community not to be entertained, but to be educated, because they've never wanted us, and I say they, and everybody knows who I'm referring to, they have never wanted us to know anything. And so it's important for my people to be just as up to speed as the rest of the world. So when I get somebody coming up to me talking about, I don't want my son to have a label, bet. Cool, fine. But I bet you it's a white kid at Harvard with a label. He's autistic. He got a parapro. He got a scholarship to go there, and he'll even do his own assignments. And yours is sitting in the basement in the dark playing, what's the game now? I'm going to say Sega. That's probably not a game, but you know, playing on
There's so many to choose from, but
no,
close enough, yeah, close enough.
Yeah,
I got you.
Yeah, you definitely bring up a good point. I did some research and I see that you have a son. Correct me if I'm wrong. He's going to be 18 this year. Is that correct?
Yeah,
that's a blessing. That's a big blessing. So all of us on the call have sons, ranging. Mine is 7. I believe we go all the way up to 11 is the oldest. Is that correct, fellas?
Yep.
Perfect.
Yep.
So if you could just touch a bit on the teenage years with your sons and kind of share to our listeners what you've experienced, and definitely some things that you could shed light on, because that is something I worry about personally, is my son's teenage years, because let's be honest, those are some of the most important.
Well, he's raggedy, but not because he's autistic, because he's raggedy. He's a raggedy teenager. He's very raggedy. Yeah, raggedy. You know, he's very vain. He hasn't found a mirror that he doesn't like. And but on the lighter side, he likes girls. And that's problematic. Because again, you know, autism doesn't necessarily have a look. And so, it doesn't have a look, but you know, girls will be trying to flirt with him and stuff because, you know, he glows in the dark and he has green eyes. And so all the girls up in his face, black, white, green, purple, you name it, they all in his face. And so he doesn't understand, so my son has processing. He's like, he's a level 2. So he has processing disorder. So he doesn't really process all of that. It's just like they all coming at me. Well, he may not like them, but the ones he decides he likes, that's where we have the problem. Because, you know, I had to explain to him, man, you can't just be touching people. You can't be walking up to people trying to touch them or getting up in their face or grabbing their arm. Talking about, because now he hold me up at school, talking about, let me have your number. Who you calling? Who are you calling? Just do it. Like, it's so much stuff. You know, that so much stuff that I've had to go through. Like, I literally, because he is in the middle of the spectrum, I like to call it. So we work on social stories where, let me see, I don't know if this is show on camera. So I'm literally doing this. This is my work. I'm doing cartoons and social stories about this little white girl right here. Don't touch her. I got another version of this with him in a jail cell behind bars, and it said, "Mommy will not come and get you out."
We don't do jails. We don't do jails.
Oh my goodness.
But the point is, these are all the realities, right? That
Very
we have to go through. Then there's a few other things that I just make these recommendations on. Make sure you shut your door because I don't want to know what you're doing in there. I don't need to know. That's your private time. Just don't take it outside this room or that bathroom. I don't need to know. I make suggestions on where he can go, but not, so I don't have that problem. But other people do have that problem where their kid becomes sexually aroused by every and anything. The wind, and then they out doing stuff, and you gotta get ahead of that. So basically what I'm saying about as your children grow, you really got to know who they are, right? And you got to get ahead, and you have to do a lot of planning. Don't be reactionary. Get ahead of it and just be like, son, this is this and this is that. And if they're like my son, like I said, you have to break it down in smaller doses, and you do kind of have to break it down like you are talking to a small child. But you got to do whatever's necessary so they get it, right?
Mm-hmm.
They get it.
Yeah, something you said that I just want to talk about for a minute. I was at a school through my degree program, an autistic classroom, and they had a bottle of Perel on one kid's desk because he always was touching himself. And they always made him, all right, clean your hands. But I was like, it took me a minute to understand that, but no one went through the process of pulling him out and trying to like build the skills for him to navigate that it's not appropriate for you to be doing that in class. Their solution was Perel on his desk.
So they want him to burn his penis off?
Man, because that sounds painful. Goodness.
I'm confused.
Not even hand sanitizer.
Said like that, but that's...
I was a guest in the space.
Oh, that's funny.
So it was hand sanitizer, just to clarify?
It was hand
okay.
Yeah.
For real.
Yeah,
okay.
For real, yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Trying to set him up.
But I know maybe he's not gonna do it again. Let him touch it this time. I bet you won't do it again. Okay. I'm just I'm gonna act like you. So that's I think one of the things is that, so we jumping ahead because see, that's one of the things. That's why I'm so passionate about the training that I do with parents, because it's kind of up to the parents. They have to do their due diligence too. You know what I mean? Like, they know he's a boy, and don't think because he's a boy who's autistic, he ain't gonna have the same desires that the anatomy is on the outside.
Mm-hmm.
It's just stuff that's gonna make him aroused, and they need to be able to talk to him about how he's feeling and what's appropriate touch and what's inappropriate touch. And basically they're setting him up, because we've had instances, well, not in our organization, but there was an instance in, I want to tell you, New York, where the sister-in-law was molesting the autistic brother-in-law, and he got her pregnant.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Yeah. So those things are real because people take advantage, people take advantage. And that's one of the reasons why I'm so diligent with my son. And it's like, we ain't getting into the big black, because he goes to predominantly white school. So we're not running across he's the big black dude. I'm so scared. It's like, you ain't that scared. Shut up. No, I say this because I've had a situation where recently, and I'm gonna talk about, I had a situation recently where the little story I showed you, he walked up to this little girl and snatched her glasses off. I don't know why he snatched her glasses off, and she was like, and I was terrified. And then my daughter said, Mom, I went to that same school. We all knew who the kids were in special education, and we knew all their behaviors. She's dramatic. And so I went to a meeting today, and I was literally like, okay, so you have to tell me how she's traumatized. She's scared to come to school. Why? Because of him? I'll wait. And they couldn't. I'm like, the teacher, I'll wait. Want to call her parents, someone come over here and explain. Because they were like, we're concerned too. Concerned of what? What you concerned of? So no one had an answer for that. So I went on about my day, but I try not to be like that. But the root of it is always going to be, he's a black man. I'm scared of him.
Right.
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 That like our kids are over sexualized and everything else. And they act like they ain't got no big baby Huey looking kids running around. Like the boy from Up with the balloons. They know. What?
Oh,
What?
Let me ask you, when did you start having discussions, though? Because we've talked before about the sex ed discussions, how to introduce that, and I got like 10 different books on it, and I'm starting with anatomy, right? Here's the anatomy, here are the names, but I'm still fumbling.
Well, the first thing I always tell every parent, call the body parts what they are.
Mm-hmm.
It ain't no wee, pee, because so I'm gonna graduate to your question, because when your child is small, and if they and if they are speaking, then they need to be able to say their body parts in case somebody touches them or does something appropriate. They need to be able to say, so and so touched me there, and there. So that's important. So great. Anatomy is great. And then, you have to talk to them about changes in their body. And I mean, it was really uncomfortable. And it's funny because I told his dad, me and his dad look like two little kids. No, I ain't doing it. You do it. You know more about the subject I do. I mean, so I ended up doing it because we both ended up talking to him about it, but he just basically just reiterates whatever I tell him to say. But the point is, we talked to him about his body changing, about him getting taller, about, that growth spurt where your bones ache, all of that stuff that sometimes is going to be uncomfortable. And we kind of led up to the rest of the stuff, and not putting shame behind it too. Sometimes you just got to be alone. That's how I left it. I could have left, but I ain't elaborate. I don't want to know about it. I don't want to know certain things. Like, so my son used to have this really bad habit. No clothes. I don't know if y'all ever went through it, but they don't care about having no clothes on. Man, dude walked up one day, he ain't have on no clothes. I was like, oh God. Oh, because that's when you realize, I'm not even trying to be crude, but that's when you realize your kid has hair where it shouldn't. I know. So I had to talk to him about, listen, no one, and I said it like, no one, I said, people shouldn't, like, no one should be, you shouldn't be naked in front of other people. Like, mommy doesn't need to see you naked. This person, nobody needs to see you naked. I put a hard stop on nakedness. Now that's probably not the right thing to do, but I had to, that's the only way he could get it. Cause homeboy would just be coming out. You'd be like, hey, did you make your lunch? He come out, no clothes. Nope. Was traumatized. I just, So I think that you're taking the right approach. But you have to reaffirm with your child whether or not they understand it, though.
Mm-hmm.
See, that's the thing. You have to take the time and to not talk at them, make it a conversation between the two of you rather than, this is dad telling you about this. This should be a conversation like, hey, son, do you have questions? Do you have questions? And sometimes you have to say it and wait. Oh God, I think, yeah, what did I say? Something, do you feel something between your legs elevating? And he was looking at me like, sometimes. I'm like, yeah. Well, it's a hard conversation, especially for a woman to have with a son. But I mean, I had to have it. And so the only thing I can tell you is that you all have to talk about it. Because if you don't talk about it and you don't teach them how to channel their emotions and their thoughts, it could get them in a whole heap of trouble. And so, I like to keep receipts. And the reason I say that, like, I got a book, like we, like I said, we do social stories about whatever the behaviors are that I want. And I keep them and I laminate them. And the reason I do all of that is so that if anything pops off, because they gonna say, oh, they ain't do nothing with that child, he just run amok. I'm like, nope, I got a book right here. We've gone through all of this stuff, because you're not gonna tell me what he did. You're not gonna add to it. And that's exactly what I did at that school. You ain't gonna add nothing to it. I know my son. I know his capabilities. He run like a fat kid. He can't run because he don't bend his legs. He don't. His fine motor skills, they're not. I mean, he run like a fat kid. He'd be like, whoop, whoop.
Hey, Nick, I think you had a question. You have a question.
I do. I know we talked about your son's past,
Mm-hmm.
and because the majority of us, well, all of us, have sons that are younger than yours. But I kind of want to talk about your son's future, and your son being 18. Traditionally, this is last year high school, moving and going off to college. What are your thoughts, feelings, ideas, approaches to the future of not only your son, but in your experience, children that have autism and moving into either a higher ed space, moving into their own space, finding work, finding job as they transition more into the adulthood space of society, not just only focusing on, the interaction with the police, but just in general, how you would see your son and his future and other children on the spectrum.
So, and this is just my opinion. I know a lot of parents, when they have children that are on the spectrum, and again, there's levels for a reason. There's level 1, there's level 2, and I know that Lonnie's son is like a level 1. I'm using Lonnie as an example. So, a level 1 kid, if they want to go to college, they can. You know what I mean? And because they don't have, they have lower supports needs, right? But for someone like my son, I'm not pushing for him to get a diploma. Now, some people go, that's just your vanity. My son don't need a diploma to feel good, because in fact, a diploma hinders some of the kids that are like my son. It hinders them from getting certain services, like if they need to get Social Security, or if they need to get into a particular type of vocational program. Because you have a diploma, that means, like, what did Obama say? Yes, you can. Yes, you can. You can. So, personally, for me, I wouldn't set him up like that. I'm not going to set him up like that. But what I'm doing is, and I'll tell you another flip side of that. I had a conversation, like they asked me, they said, are you going to have him come to the graduation, walk across the stage, et cetera, et cetera? And I said, I'm going to leave that up to him, because I don't want to put him through something that's just ceremonial, right? From my ego, because it's really my ego that wants, the parents' ego that want the diploma, want the cap and gown, want all of it. It's the ego, because he don't care. He don't give him Merry Christmas. Just give him some chicken wings, some lemon pepper, and he's good. He don't care. That's his graduation party right there. But what I'm going to tell you is something that someone said to me, that when their daughter graduated or walked across the stage with the rest of her class, who has very similar behavior to my son, when they came home, she said, everyone's going somewhere and I'm not going anywhere. And that kid went into a deep depression, like for a month. Because she was able to correlate the fact that she went through that whole ceremony with the cap and gown and took pictures and ain't going nowhere. So I'm looking at things for my son is that we're trying to figure out, so entrepreneurship, like maybe having him create his own product and then we market it. And so one of the things that I am trying to do is create a legitimate skills lab for young adults who are on the spectrum so they can get a skill, acquire it. They don't necessarily have to go to trade school, but if they want to go to a trade school, they can, right? If they want to be an entrepreneur, they can. The problem in underserved communities is we don't have any inroads to a lot of the programs that they have in these white communities, right? And so I get a Microsoft sending me an email, hey, I need some of your kids because they need diversity. And I'll say, you don't have a job that any of my kids could do, because Microsoft will hire an autistic person, but they want to hire a legit SPE person. They don't want a kid who the mama said, oh, he loved the computers. Well, sending an email ain't a skill, ma'am. I mean, thank you. I'm being real, because that's it. That's not what Microsoft is asking for. They're asking for the best of the best person they need to make an accommodation for. So to answer your question is, you got to know who your child is. You know, like I said, Lonnie's son could probably go to college and be fine. He'll just need that level of social emotional support. And when your children are young now's a good time for you to teach them how to be a self-advocate, right? Instead of saying, oh, he don't know he autistic, or we don't talk about that. No, you need to talk about it like everybody needs to talk about Bruno in that cartoon movie. They needed to talk about his ass because he seemed to wield all the power. Y'all need to be talking about it. And I'm going to tell you why. Because if your child knows they are autistic, they can tell a teacher, okay, I need a little more time. If they know they're autistic, they can advocate for their rights. They can say, you got to give me a little more time to process this. You're not going to rush me through this. You're going to let me turn. You understand what I'm saying? They would. But if we stay in a state of denial, our kids will never be where they should be. Not where we want them to be, where they want to be. And we have to raise them to have that level of discernment that they want better for themselves, not what we want for them. Because I've learned over the years, if I've watched these kids grow up, that some of the pressures that parents put on their kids aren't realistic, period, whether they're on the spectrum or not. And we all know the kid that had all the weight of the family on them, you know, first in college, first in everything. And we all know that one that either had some sort of mental health issue or became drug addicted. And everybody's like, what happened to Sonny? He was so smart. He was this, he was that. Nobody ever asked Sonny how he was doing. They just assumed Sonny had it all because he knew 2 + 2 = 4. But no one took the time to really deal with Sonny on a holistic level and be like, bruh, what's up? What you need? How you doing? You know, we can't continue to take people for granted. So, you know, just keep a careful watch on your son, how he's developing. Ask him what he wants. Like, you know, ask him what do you want to do? If he says, I want to go to college because I want to be a doctor, then you need to immediately start figuring out how to make sure that there's proper accommodations for him in a university setting, giving him different scenarios about different people from different walks of life, and just making sure that you keep him keep a good infrastructure to hold him up, because there's sometimes he's going to deal with stuff that he's not going to, understand. But I think that as long as your kids have you, they should be okay. I mean, it sounds corny, but for real, as long as they got y'all and y'all are on the right page with them, your kids should be fine.
Agreed. Yeah, definitely. It's important for us to be there and be the number one fan. Honestly, you said that so well. You touched on school a bit. So my son personally is in public school right now in the 2nd grade, and me and my wife have been through everything. Starting off in kindergarten, he was kicked out multiple times. IEP was multiple pages, but over the years has gotten better, and me and her were big advocates, and we made sure we went up there and made sure they knew our face and what services need to be done. And of course, that resulted in him getting a para as well as getting the services needed. So to that point, how do you feel that the school system has improved or things that they still need to work on, since you've had children in school, or the experiences you may have heard in prior sessions?
Well, it depends on where you live.
So I live in Michigan, for example.
I live in Michigan. Okay, so I live in Birmingham. I ain't got no worries. I ain't got no problems.
Right.
Because people, the higher tax bracket you in, the more amenities they gonna have for your child. When my son graduates, he's going to a transition school that's just through the parking lot of his current high school. A brand new facility. He can go there till he's 26. It looks like Club Med. I visited there 3 weeks ago, and I was like, dang. They got mock apartments where the kids clean up the apartment.
Wow.
Like this week, this your apartment, the fake apartment. You got to make up the bed, clean the. I'm just like, dang, and working with them with life skills. But to be honest with you, I think I'm gonna give you the political answer, which is this. I think more people need to start putting pen to paper and demanding what you want to see in these schools. So I could tell you, oh, you go over to this district, it's better, or go over there, but that's not going to help. Like I had a parent from Detroit got upset with me because I wouldn't help her get her kid to go outside the district to school. And I said, and she was like, but they got it better over here. And I said, but do you have a car? And she was like, yeah. And I was like, what year? And she told me, and I said, I bet your alternator going to break down and you ain't going to be able to go get them when you get sick. Everybody know the alternator always go first, right? Man. Is that the first thing that goes on the old car?
Either that or the road's going to get them, either or.
Right, or the road. So I said, so that's not going to help you. And I said, if he's sick and you got to travel, a couple, 30 minutes, that's not going to help you. You need to be working in your own district and demanding that, well, they ain't got that. Well, they don't have it because you haven't shown enough concern to put pen to paper and start telling your local government, not the school district, because we all know that a lot of these school districts are padding their pockets heavy, right?
Right.
But you can pass them and go straight to the legislatures and say to them, listen, I'm not going to vote for you until you get behind some legislation to change these schools. And come out with your scroll like Moses and let that paper fall to the ground and be like, I need this, I need that, I need this, I need that. And this is what we need. And you don't just be by yourself. You do a groundswell like they did back in the day. You like when the Panthers used to organize and they did those lunch programs and stuff. I'm talking about what they really did, not the fictional stuff that the people want us to believe. When they had those groundswells where they were fighting for our communities to have lunch programs and all kinds of other community programs. That's what we need to be doing. We need to be getting together, and you need to make it everybody's business, not just the people who have kids with disabilities. Everybody's business, because we all benefit from the fair and equitable treatment of our children, period. And you got to start getting people behind this and to create the spaces we need to be seeing, because all of these schools aren't there. If you send your kid to a private school, like I had somebody say, my child goes to a charter school. Well, goody for you. They ain't got to follow that IEP. An IEP is the law. Well, my son got a 504 because I ain't want him to have an IEP because that's a label. Okay, well then that's great. That's a suggestion. Again, a 504 is a suggestion, and IEP, they have to follow it. And it doesn't matter where on the spectrum your child falls. It doesn't matter if your child is quote unquote high functioning, level 1 or whatever. The reality of it is that child still deserves that IEP because they need that time to decompress. They need that time to be able to not be stressed out about their environment. That's what an IEP is for, accommodations. So, I mean, I'm always long-winded, but the reality is, like I said, we're in this together. That's not like a corny little saying, like legitimately, all Black people are in this together. And if we don't come together and start creating the spaces that we want to see, creating the reality that we want to see, we're going to continue to have these problems in these what I like to call underserved school districts, because there's no reason why my son has only had like he gets mainstreamed a little bit, like maybe I think he gets mainstream. Like there's one class every day he goes to that's a mainstream class, and then another class that he goes to, I think twice a week. So, but the point is, he's only had 6 people in his class since he was little. So your kid's age.
Mm.
And people go, well, why is that important? It's important because if you got 6 kids in a room, 1 teacher and 2 parapros, 3 parapros, that's almost one-on-one.
One.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone knows that autistic people learn the way that they learn, right? And so that way, that individualized education plan really is individualized for him, because my son excels better at computers. He's a stereotype too, computers and math, but he doesn't process the English language that well. So, we got to get our stuff together. You know what I'm saying? Like we got to get it together. And I think also knowing what we're talking about is a big help, because it's too often that people look at situations and they be like, well, they have it over there, but you need to understand why they have it and how they got it.
Camille, so I'm gonna shift gears a little bit. And we kind of talked about this off camera. So, so like I said in the beginning, my wife and I met you through your parent trainings, and your parent trainings are phenomenal. Like, if you listen to the sound of my voice, please go to the Color of Autism's website and please sign up for a parent training. They are phenomenal. Every time I've gone, I've learned something new. I mean, I can't thank you enough for that. My wife and I can't thank you enough for that. But, and there is a but, every time I've gone, I'm probably like 1 or 2 or 3 men in your trainings, and everybody else is women. Okay. You and I have had this conversation about the disconnect between your parent trainings and maybe, I don't know about other trainings because I haven't gone to like other places like that you have, but there's not a lot of men showing up at your trainings. And so we've talked about this, and you've told me your side, I've told you my side, and I want you to elaborate on why you think there is such a disconnect, why you don't have more men in those types of trainings.
Because y'all are chauvinists and y'all no. That's why. It's plain chauvinism. Because you all need to be in our parent training. It does not matter if it's a whole bunch of women. I got 2 brothers in the training right now. Now I will say that men show up and they're grateful. Like I had a brother just literally come off mic before the class got started. It was like, Miss Camille, I just want to thank you because what had happened was my wife came to your last training and I didn't come, but then she had all this information. And see, it's not the woman's job to come to the training. And this is what I'm telling you what the dude said. I should have recorded it, but I don't record because I want people to keep their autonomy. But he said that it wasn't his wife's job to come back and teach him, that he should have been in a class and learned it firsthand. And I wholeheartedly agree with him, because here's the thing. In order for you all to better support your kids, you're making the first step. You all are Black fathers that are involved. You're here. You go to the dad support group, right? What does the training offer you? The training offers you better insights into who your kids are. Yeah, you see them every day and you can, but it teaches you how to figure out how to collect data on them. Like, I'm going to use Travis as an example. So Travis, your son is like 6'7". So he has a certain behavior and it gets escalated at a certain time of day. You need to be tracking that, right?
Yep.
So you can figure out what's going on that time of day. So these are the types of things we teach you about, like the some of the questions you ask me. We teach you about that stuff to get you ready. We teach you techniques that you can use. And it's a partnership between you and your spouse. That's why you all need to come to the training. Yeah, it's on a Saturday and y'all could be watching soccer, football, whatever the case, or at a practice. I'm not saying that's not important, but it's for 5 weeks. And it's 5 weeks is an investment in your child's future. That's all I got for you. That's 5 weeks as well invested, because you're going to learn about the stuff that you need to know about, so that if you need to pull up on somebody, you'll be educated. You know, if you need to get your child an AAC device, you could be like, listen, Section 4 of the blah, blah, blah statute says, give me that damn AAC device. No, I'm saying, but you need to know these things. You need to be informed, because I'm going to tell you something. They're not prepared for you to be informed. They're never prepared for you to be informed, right? The more you know, like, well, Travis, would you say, me and my wife, we advocate. Yeah, now they know y'all know something. I can't really stress, and we're building a community in the parent trainings. I had someone say to me, they said, well, why don't you have stuff just for teens? Well, I don't parse out the classes. And the reason I don't parse out the classes and separate the teen parents, because it's a community. We want people like Nick to be able to ask someone like me, hey, your son is 18. Tell me about the journey from my son's age to this. You know, hey, anybody know anything about blah, 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 blah? People will start throwing out all kinds of help and answers and stuff. And you get that in a community of people. That's why I get on Tyrone, and I was like, these brothers showing up for this thing, but y'all need to be showing up at least. I feel like at least one training. You ain't got to come to them all, but y'all should at least complete 1 5-week training. But what ends up happening is that the dads that do complete the 5-week training, they end up going to Natasha's training for 8 weeks, because that's teaching them different techniques on how to father. You know, I grew up in the 70s. The only thing I got was a whooping. I got anticipatory whoopings. I anticipate you gonna do something, so come get this whooping. I got a whooping for everything. That doesn't work. You know, so we work on teaching you how to be better parents for your autistic child. We're not teaching you how to let them get away with stuff. We just teaching you on how to understand them a little bit better, to make their life easier as well as yours. Because like I said, y'all all deserve that time to just chill and not worry about what's going on upstairs or in the basement or over there. Because once you get a handle on it, it kind of goes like on autopilot. And my son is like a creature of habit. So right now, it's about 7:30. He makes his own lunch, because he takes his lunch. He makes his own lunch, gets his situation all settled, set up in the refrigerator. He goes upstairs about 9 o'clock. You're going to hear some water running. Shh. You're going to take a shower and go to bed. Like clockwork. I don't have to do anything. Nothing for him. Y'all all want that, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, routine. Love routine.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
So is, besides the reason that you gave, is there another reason or a deeper meaning of why, like, just black men are not really showing up to the trainings? Because one of the guys in your lesson,
it's because historically that's something that a woman would do. Historically, women do that. Women go to classes. Women try to learn. I mean, I don't want to say women try to learn stuff, because men do. Or there would be no male academia. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about a situation where women have always been seen as the primary caregiver. And since women have held that role and we've owned that role, y'all ain't trying to change it. Since, you know, y'all, because Nick, you laughing, but like when your son go out and do something, they gonna be like, where your mom at? They ain't gonna look for your ass.
Well, see, here's this is the thing. This is the thing.
I'm listening.
They will, because they know me. At my school, my son's school.
We talking about school. We talking about out there in the world.
In the world. See, this is the deal. This is the deal. 9 times out of 10, when we travel, because our family is not large, we travel as a unit. There's very seldom an opportunity you will not see all of the members in my household not together.
Mm-hmm.
So as the age that my son is currently, we travel as a unit. And when somebody is missing, people ask, where is that individual? Either my son, myself, or my wife. Our situation, just a little bit different. because of how we operate in the areas and the spaces that we operate in. So, but I'm not saying that not to disagree with the point that you're trying to make, but people will call me as fast as they will call my wife, and sometimes faster, depending on whose number you have most readily available. Our lifestyle just a little bit different.
But that's not a bad thing. That's
No,
not a
no,
bad
no,
thing.
not at all.
But you
Not
do
at
get
all.
the point that I was trying to make.
I get
That's
the point that you're
actually
trying to
what I
make.
want. And that is the purpose of me saying that you all need to be in a parent training, because it should be just exactly what if Nick, your wife, has been in our training, you need to be in there with her. And then, or at least just get through one of the 5 weeks and be like, okay, I you know what? I think I know why he doing that, because that person said such and such, because men are good recallers of information. I will say that. Y'all will recall something. Y'all be like that. Yep, I remember. and that's just it. That's just my point.
Real
I'm gonna
quick.
make this. Let me make this point real quick.
Go ahead.
I've sat in and been in 2 of your trainings. I've done the 5 week with my wife.
Oh, you did the whole 5 weeks. Then
I did the
I'm
5
gonna get
week
off
with
your.
my
I'm gonna get
wife,
off your butt.
and I did the what's her name, Supernova
Oh,
Mama.
he's done it all.
I've done that training as well. So, and as a matter of fact, I was in that training with Ty. And so, I've taken both of your training, so I understand the importance of the learning. I'm in adult education myself. So I understand the importance of learning and continue to grow and learn. But I also understand that in what my experience is in adult learning is availability is a bigger thing for learning in adults than it may be for children, because there's so many different things on adults' plates and other responsibilities that could clash and coincide. And if I have to choose, depending on the lifestyle and the family structure that's shaped, if I have to choose between a training that the majority of African Americans hasn't gotten behind yet, and something that is traditionally African Americans have gotten behind, such as sports. Like if I got a game, my son's playing football, and he doesn't, but I'm just saying hypothetically,
I get you.
my son is playing football on a Saturday, and it happens to fall Saturday at 11. I'm not skipping the football game because that's more institutionalized in our family than the training that he would need, the parent training that I would need for his autism spectrum disorder for the rest of the week, because it isn't institutionalized in our community as of yet. So we would make the change. So flexibility, if from my perspective as an adult educator, could actually help gain and garner and spread the word when it comes to teaching parents about being advocates, children's self-advocation, and the information that you give.
Well, I'm gonna tell you the flip side of that. I do agree with that. And it's not to be argumentative, but I'm gonna tell you a few things. It's an investment in your child's future. It's an investment in your child's life, and you made that investment. So let me not, because this ain't really directed towards you, because you made the investment. So, for that father who would rather do the sports thing, right? If their child is approached by the police and that child does not know how to interact with the police, meaning yield, the stuff that the techniques, that some of the techniques you probably picked up, and just being a man, period, because I know that you father. I just understand from talking to you, I know you a father, right?
I appreciate that.
You father.
Yes, ma'am.
But for those who aren't you, I'm keeping it real, and their child gets approached by the police and they end up a fatality, was that game that important? Because I'm going to tell you something. I walked away from a 6-figure job. Dude, you can read my bio. I ain't make that up. I had a good, how people say you got a good job? I had a good job, right? I had, for no reason, 2 luxury vehicles. 2. I had a good job, a retirement and a 401k. I had to walk away from that because I had nobody to take care of my son. And I made the investment in my son and myself to become better and in my community. So if I made the sacrifice, 90 minutes on a Saturday ain't gonna kill nobody if you have to do it for a month. It's gonna help you become a better parent, a better ally, and a better member of this community. Because the thing that we need to be focusing on is, like I said from the beginning, how are we going to create a community by design that's going to take care of our kids? And if we don't put action behind it, it ain't gonna happen. So when you gave a perfect scenario, Nick. I'm gonna go to the football game because institutionally it's looked on. That looks better than going to learning how to take care of my son that's sitting over there at home putting his head through the wall. I'm putting his head through the wall because that's the reality some people are going through. Or my son who's harming himself, or my daughter that's doing whatever. Because I haven't really even talked about the fact that young women who are on the spectrum, because they mask so well, they also they come into puberty earlier. And the easiest person to traffic is somebody that wants to please you, be a part of something, or the one that can't talk. Notice how I didn't say non-speaking, because how they say it in the hood is can't talk. She can't. Who she gonna argue with? So you snatch her up and you traffic her. We have a girl, true story. We had a young lady, parents, oh, we ain't got to do this. We ain't got to do that. That's too much for us. Her child got taken. The child was gone for, I think, a year and a half. When that girl came back, she was wearing adult diapers and was drug addicted. And so I don't get on the families, whether, the dads, the moms, I don't get on your backs because I just feel like, oh, you got to be in my classes. I get on people's backs because you need to have this information. You need to have this information. Fathers are a very important part of every child's life. A girl learns how she should be treated from you, and a young man learns how he should be treating others through you. They both learn from you. So when people minimize fathers, I get a little irritated because y'all are very important. And so y'all need to take your level of importance and bring it to my class. That's all I'm saying.
So real quick, because I'm gonna get ready to wrap it up in a minute, but I agree with both of y'all, and I think that we can talk about, the like what Nick said and what you said, Camille, about the reasons why.
No, he gave good reasons.
He gave great reasons. I'm more interested in the solution, because is the solution like, hey, just suck it up and you need to go because
that's
you
the
need to invest
solution
in your kid's future? Or are there different methods? Because that may be the solution, but it's not like you said, it ain't a ton of guys coming. So is there another way or a different way, or I don't know. Like I've been still trying to figure it out. I'm
gonna give you the honest truth, and I hate to interrupt you. The honest truth is something bad is gonna happen, and then they gonna run to it because it's never important until something happens to you, bruh. We could do a little subliminal message. That ain't gonna work. Ain't no alternative. Bring your behind to the class. Ain't nobody gonna bake you a cake and say, come take care of your kid. I wasn't there when you made that kid. I didn't pour the cognac for you.
Not the cognac.
Oh, man.
Not the cognac.
The cognac.
Come to the class.
That's a PSA for you right there.
There you go.
Well, there it is.
There's the answer. Right there.
I wanted to just touch on one thing you mentioned about the importance of building community. Mm-hmm. And I think that I take that for a lot of different things, right? I know for my son when he was younger, that was important to us to figure out how to get more social opportunities, time to interact and whatnot. And We had a birthday party. We do big birthday parties. We're over the top birthday parties. We rented out a movie theater. And for all of his classmates, except for one, this was the first time they'd ever been to a movie theater. And we know that a lot of families in general talk about the importance of creating social opportunities. So I will push back a little bit and talk about it is important to give kids that practice. My younger two kids get practice every single day with the little kids across the street, right? They get the hours of social interaction, hours of practice. My older kid doesn't get that. He gets some of that. So I focus on the academics. I focus on, he probably would have been a level 2 when he was initially, diagnosed. They didn't have the language at that time.
Mm-hmm.
But pragmatic, receptive expressive communication delay, severe echolalia, all these things. But the intensity of it, I went back, got educated. I went back, got a master's in special education. I went back into the work to get the tools to teach him. I left the 6-figure job too to work with this kid, right? And so he's doing really well, but something I'm thinking about more and more. I push so much academically, it's important for me to stop and still push more socially. I got to you mentioned the ego. I got to get my ego out the way a little bit and start focusing more on the social development, but also on what he wants, what's important to him, because he wants to please me.
Mm-hmm.
And so right now he's pushing. And I don't know, I'm just getting mindful that it can't be about me. It has to be about him, where he wants to go. And so that's the thing I'm trying to focus on more, stepping back a little bit, still having high expectations, but the importance of how do I continue to build a community for him, facilitate more friendships where I can, facilitate more social opportunities. And so I will say that I think the dances, I think all those things are important for that reason though, too.
No, I'm not saying they're not important. I'm just saying I ain't, because it's too many people in our community that aren't y'all. You understand what I'm saying? It's too many people in the community that are less informed. I think it is important for kids to have social interaction. I think it's absolutely important because it's necessary. We're all human, right? We need to have interactions. We need to have healthy interactions. I 100% agree with that. But the reason I say we don't, and we do some back to school thing, we do that type of stuff. But I'm not going to sit up there and constantly have a whole, because first of all, to let you back into Tyrone's original question about how did you start a nonprofit? When you have parties and you throw all that money in the parties and doing the walks and the galas, you have to put money up front to do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And for me, that's money that I could be invested in y'all, in your education and you learning, right? The second thing that what Tyrone started off with, when you go to a funder and they say, what do you do? Well, we have parties. They're going to be like, you can't measure that. Where's the data? What's the data? Well, everybody left happy. Oh, all right. Am I making sense to y'all now a little bit?
Absolutely.
Did I clarify that for you?
Well said.
Absolutely.
Because
Well
I think
said.
that it's important for you. I think that's great. I think like I know of a dad that started like his own little I call it the Pop Warner, the autistic Pop Warner version, for the kids. I think they need that. I think that there's some innovative parents out there that can start a whole movement of having social activities and stuff like that, and y'all can fundraise for that. But at the Color of Autism, I can't put a whole lot behind that because I have to stay, now that I am at capacity, I have to continue to be funded because there's more and more parents. When Tyrone and Nick was coming to my classes, there might be 12 people in the class, right? About
That's
9,
true.
12, right?
That's true.
We running on 30 deep
Oh wow.
Well, that's what's up.
for the past year. We
That's
about 30
awesome.
deep.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what's
30.
up.
So there's a need for the education portion of what we do. There's a need to create programs so that if your child is where my child is when they're 18, that they have a way to develop a skill that where they can take care of themselves, right? So we got to start looking to why. And so my why is I want everybody to be educated. That's all. I'm just I need you to be educated. And I also need to be taking this data back to my funders saying, listen, this is what we did. This was our activities. This is the measurement. This is how many parents did this, that, and the third. That's all. I'm just saying.
Absolutely. Well, Camille, thank you so much for coming on the show. Where can people find your nonprofit? If you list off the website for us.
The Color of Autism.org.
And guys, some great information on there. Again, if you listening, please sign up for one of her parent trainings. They are amazing. I've learned so much. I know you in one right now. You recently just got done with one.
We're finished. This is our last week.
Okay.
This is our last week for this group. And then we're going to start, I think, March 16th. We're going to start again.
All right, y'all. So we got to be at that one. We got to be at that one because there ain't no meeting in the middle. She didn't said it. It is what it is.
Funny.
All right.
I will ask you this: is there any opportunity to schedule any other time other than Saturday mornings?
So it's hard. I mean, it's hard because a lot of the facilitators are just like y'all working 9 to 5s. So they come in on Saturdays, and then a lot of the parents can't do it in the evenings because they got a parent. So Saturdays is kind of like the day we decided on because it's a little bit easier since it's virtual. We don't care if the kids are running around.
No, Lonnie, you gotta make it work. Like she said, ain't no me in the middle. We gotta do it.
Right. And you still over there to tell holler at them going, put that shoe down. What you doing to your sister? Stop pulling her hair. Y'all could, So unfortunately, no. We do plan on having some evening webinars on certain subject matter, but I do want y'all to check out. If you Google IACC meeting, or I'll send Tyrone the link, you'll see a lovely presentation by Camille about interaction with the police, and they go, "What do you think? What can we do to stop bad interactions between the police and autistic children?" And I just say, "Stop killing Black people."
Please send me the link. Again, thank you for coming, Camille. We really appreciate it. This has been an amazing
Thanks for
show.
having me, and thanks for being phenomenal. Even though I picked on y'all, thanks for being phenomenal fathers. Because, like I said, y'all are very important. Y'all are just as important as mothers, And I appreciate the fact that you are investing in your children and that you love your children. I always used to make a joke about my son's dad, how people don't understand our relationship because we're friends. And I always say I always respected the fact that we're not together, but he always made it a point when my son was real small to come over to my house, give him a kiss and a hug good night, put him in the bed. And to this day, my son is 6'2", his father is not. He still hugs him and he kisses him when he sees him. He always embraces our son. I can't hate him for that. He gets on my nerves for other reasons. But
that's awesome, man. Well, thank you everybody for listening. Camille, thank you for coming. This is AutisHim, Black Fathers and Autism, and we out.